I know you've been waiting like I've been waiting, like we've been waiting, but Gerald Huggins is here to break down his top 10 prospects heading into the 2024 season. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College to get $20 off your first purchase. Today's episode is all about the HBCU prospects entering the 2024 season. And you know we're not going to get a cumulative breakdown without bringing my guy, Gerald Huggins, on the show, DraftHBCU representative. We've been talking about this for, man, I feel like the talks have gone back into June. Like, it's been a while for us discussing making this happen, but finally we have. So thank you for coming on. You know, I appreciate you, of course. Let's get into our list, and let's first break down very briefly the criteria. You had 3 categories. You sent me multiple editions of this list, and we'll kind of reference that as we go on, specifically with the first guy, to be honest. But you have the film grade. Remind me what the high on the film grade is. That's the one I forgot.
Yeah, so the highest on your film grade can go to a 7.
Right, and then you have athleticism, which is a high as a 0.7, and then you have then you have size, where the high is a 0.5. Did I get all those correct?
Flip. Size is 0.7.
Size is 0.7. Athleticism is 0.5. We're going to get to a guy who maxed out those on tomorrow's episode, actually. But I appreciate all y'all sitting in with us. This is our first live premiere, so you'll be able to leave comments. And, you know, if you want to tell Gerald he don't know nothing about nothing, you'd be wrong. But you can go ahead and feel free to do that if you wanted to. Let's go ahead and flash up the list, though.
I'm not gonna care.
So we're gonna flash up the list, and we're gonna start with 10 through 6. So we have Carson, Vinson out of Alabama A&M offensive lineman, Jacolby, Hewitt out of Alabama A&M wide receiver, Kenny Gallop defensive back, Howard, Carson, Hinton defensive back, Howard, and James Burgess defensive back out of Bama State. So I want to start off with the teammates that you have on that list at 6 and 7, or excuse me, at 7 and 8. You have the 2 defensive backs out of Howard. And I think that is interesting because you have Hinton above Gallop, and Gallop is the returning Aeneas Williams Award winner. So what was it that made the distinction between the two where you said, I'm going to put Hinton, or maybe not everybody would agree with that?
0.05. I mean, that's literally, Carson Hinton graded out at 3.2 and Kenny Gallop graded out at 3.15. I mean, you could go into it. I need to find a system that kind of made sense so I could have some sort of consistency with my selections and my consistency with my film grades and all the different grades. But the biggest thing with Carson, I believe, really is just Carson Hinton. I have him slated as a nickel. And as a nickel, you know, he projects very good size for the position. His athleticism for the position as well. And I just really enjoyed his tape. I just think he has the size for the position over Kenny. Now, I've been teetering with putting Kenny as a nickel for the next level, but I really like him as a box safety. Hinton I don't think Hinton used to play corner. I don't really see him as a corner. I don't really see him at the safety. So if I put him just as a pure nickel cornerback, Hinton is one of the best nickels I've graded this year. He is violent, short area quickness, tenacious, He does everything you need to do for a nickel. He'll stop the run like a linebacker. If you send him on a blitz, he's trying to rush like an edge rusher. He can cover the seams, cover the short area zones, shallow zones like a DB. And if he needs to play man occasionally, he's able to. I wouldn't put him in man too often, but if you put him in position to be successful, like just having him cover the shallow zones and zone coverage, which most teams play zone anyway for the most part, mainly. He's going to fit well in the system. I know a lot of people don't know about Carson Hinton. I know they, people really remember him from that pick six versus FAMU in the Celebration Bowl. But, when you, after all the smoke clears and you just go back over the spring and the summer, you really just sit and watch the tape. Man, this kid is a baller. And
if you're on the video side, you see the pick six right there. This is the picture. Yeah. This is that moment that we're speaking about. That is the interception return for a touchdown that he had in the Celebration Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. So just in case we needed a visual reminder, if you're on the YouTube side, if you're on the audio side, just go back to the Twitter @South Exclusive. You'll be able to see the thumbnail, because that's also going to be the thumbnail picture for today's episode. Mm-hmm. But you said it's only a 0.05, and that's true. And it all comes down to size, because I have the rubric, the same film grade, same athleticism grade, and then size is literally the only difference between the two. So it's really like, what do they say? Splitting wood? No, it's not splitting wood. Grasping that straw? I don't know. But basically about making a minuscule difference between the two players.
Just put this out here. Both of them have a PFA grade, which means they have, pushing day 3, right on that fringe of day 3 PFA. So they both have the same grade. So, I don't really care, but just say, don't think too much into it. These are two very good football players at their respective positions. It just really depends on where you slate them. And for me,
I did want to ask you this though, because you talking about where you slate them. That's interesting. I've seen 3 renditions of this list, man. Carson Hinton is here. He was all around.
He was.
What made this such a difficult guy to place on this list? Because let's see, you had him at 6, and you had him at 3. Yeah. Now he's back at 7.
Yeah. So it's playing around with the formula and really just trying to, like, when it comes to athleticism grade, I just want to. This is based off. This has nothing to do with 40 times shuttles. This is just based on the field. How are you moving? Do you look like you're at the level you're supposed to be at, or you're at the level you're at? So for me, Carson moves like I want people to find a way to watch that Northwestern game, and that is literally teach tape how to play nickel back on the FBS, FCS, NFL level. Carson Hinton had that was one of the best films I've graded of a defensive player. And I scout
a lot.
The ACC, I scout the Sun Belt, FCS, HBCU, Carson Hinton. That was one of my favorite tapes. I'm talking about he's knocking tight ends out. He's going against offensive linemen. He's blitzing. He's stopping the run, fitting. He's working the seam. The only thing I would say knock on Hinton, he's maybe a little too aggressive at times and leaves him susceptible to big play. Too aggressive. Now, that's why he needs to be a nickel. That's why he's not a corner. You can get away with being a little aggressive at nickel. Too aggressive at corner, bye-bye. So I really enjoy watching the film thing. I know people look at PFF grades and all this other stuff, and stats don't mean nothing to me personally.
You can see the tape.
I'm a film guy, so like all stats are skewed. I work at a HBCU. These statisticians. Okay, so I'm not about to get into how some stats are boosted more. But at the end of the day, when I cut on the tape, when I see your impact on the game, Carson and Kenny are both literally some of the most impactful defensive backs in the FCS.
And as we push forward, I actually want to look at Kenny Gallop on the other side, because when you speak about impact and you speak about change in the game, I do feel like that's something that you saw really develop in his play in 2023 as opposed to 2022 and 2021 is his ability to take away the ball. So let's look at that as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. And if you download the Gametime app today, you'll be able to take advantage and use the code Locked On College. You'll be able to take advantage of the $20 off offer that they'll give you on your first purchase. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about going to an athletic event. Doesn't matter if you're talking about going to a comedy show, a theater play. It's versatile, right? I know we sit here and we talk about HBCU athletics, but you can easily say you're in the Nashville area. You could easily go to a play. You could easily go to a concert. Say you're in Chicago. I know I'm naming some just off the wall areas, but these are places I've been thinking about going. So, but these are places where you can go watch athletic events. You can go to theater plays, concerts, everything in between, and you'll get $20 off by using the code Locked On College. So you have flash deals, zone deals, and already the best prices that you'll find anywhere. I'm just giving you an added bonus to go ahead and check them out. So download the app. That is Gametime. Create an account and use the code Locked On College, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Use Locked On College and get $20 off your first purchase. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today. It's the first of its kind, 24/7, all day, every day, live sports network on YouTube. So go ahead and check that out. Speaking of live, we're here. We doing it live. Leave your comments. I'm going to read them. He ain't going to read them, but I'm going to read them. And we'll probably talk about them. Just because I want to know what the reaction is, how they feel about certain players, man. And that's why we started off with Carson Hinton, because I knew that would be one that may catch some people off guard. But you have Kenny Gallop right there. It's a very slight difference. And before we move to the Alabama A&M teammates, Kenny Gallop took the ball away way more in this season than he did in prior years. How much do you think that played a part in getting him the Aeneas Williams Award finalist? Excuse me, not finalist, but the Aeneas Williams. I can't talk, huh? Aeneas Williams Award in 2023.
Kenny Gallop was very impactful in every level of defensive player. He's covering tight ends. They're telling him to cover the deep third, shallow zones. They ask him to blitz. He has to fit in a run. They ask him to do everything. He's very versatile. He could play nickel. He could play box safety. He could play free safety. And the crazy part about it, he was doing all this, and Kenny's pushing 225 pounds, 5'11", pushing 6. Like that's big for a free safety. That's big for a strong. Like that's big. That's heavy, and he's able to move the way he does. But I know, maybe a little drop in weight, could help him with his some maneuverability. But end of the day, he has strong coverage skills. He has value on special teams. He excels in the pass, and he's really good at fitting in the run. Only thing I'll say about Kenny, just refine his tackling. Refine your tackling. Too many missed tackles. Just tackles that didn't need to be missed. He's fitting up well. His angles are good. You just got to finish the play. But outside of that, man, Kenny's a baller. I don't think he may not be the athlete that other DBs are, but he's instinctual. He's smart. He has a feel for route combinations in the deep coverage. He has a feel for route combinations at the intermediate level, and he has a feel for the route combinations on the short level. So he's all three levels. He can do it. Some teams may want to kick him to a will linebacker because he's 5'11" in a quarter and 225 pounds. Could he do it? Yeah, but I would like to see him, tackle better to be able to do that. But
of course,
end of the day, Kenny was the leader on a team, not just a defense leader on a team that went to the Celebration Bowl. And he was one of the best defensive players in the country.
Yeah.
In most games, Kenny was the one that showed up when they needed him the most. Kenny was there on the stretch plays, running from the opposite side of the field, tackling the guy in the backfield, tackling the guy for 1-2 yards. Then next play, he's covering the tight end, jacking him up at the line of scrimmage, and then forcing them to go somewhere else. I mean, you don't get a stat for that.
Nah, you don't. And that's what we're talking about with stats being skewed.
That's what I'm saying. Right. You don't get a stat for a lot of good things that like Carson and Kenny do. You don't get a lot of stat. You don't get a stat for jamming up a receiver. Kenny's 5'11", 225, but it makes sense now because I'm watching him go against like Northwestern in Eastern Michigan. Like these big tight ends, he's holding them up. He's covering them. He's good with leverage. He knows when to lean into a guy to kind of make the catch a little harder. He may not have the length at the catch point as other guys because he is 5'11", but he's physical at the catch point. It's going to take a lot for you to catch a ball over Kenny Gallop.
Yeah, no, this is facts, and he's one of those guys who you see making the impact, but you may not see the stats because he's a defensive back, and it's a little bit more difficult to see statistics for defensive backs because most people are looking at pass breakups and interceptions. But when you look at the wide receiver position, that's a heavy stat position. You look at yards now, like we said, everything's skewed, but you can look at yards, you can look at catches, you can look at touchdowns. So it's a little bit more prominent, and we have a guy who jumped into the top 10. As I said earlier, I've seen 3 different renditions of this list, and you hit me up probably a week, 2 weeks ago. If we had done this when we were supposed to, this guy wouldn't even have been here.
Yeah.
You say, hey, man, I need Hewitt. Is it too late to put Hewitt in the top 10? I said, we ain't recorded yet. Of course not. What did Jacolby Hewitt out of Alabama A&M do to where if you just didn't put him in the top 10, you would have felt bad?
He's so explosive, man. He's firm against the press, outstanding hands, and man, he don't really drop the ball like that. And he's versatile. You can play him on the inside, outside the slot. He can X, he can Z. I probably would have him more of a Z or a slot receiver. Run after the catch. Just give him the opportunity to run. He turns into a running back after he catches the ball. He's compactly built. And I think I don't know what his speed's going to be, but I'd be shocked if he runs anything less than within the 4.4s. I watched this one play versus FAMU, and he's going against Eric Smith. And everybody in the FCS, everybody at HBCU football knows how fast Eric Smith was.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Eric, and Eric Smith playing off coverage. He beat Eric Smith by about 3-4 yards on a deep route. I said, dang, this kid is fast. And he's a returner. You know, he's a kick returner, punt. You can put him at kick return, punt return. So guys like that, I like a receiver. Those run at the catch guys, because now you put them at return, now they have that vision. And vice versa, they have that vision. And he has good vision after the catch. You know, he's going to break through some arm tackles. I just want to put it out there. It's not. So I got to make sure these kids are even on the roster first. So that's the hardest part, because a lot of people don't update the roster. So I'm making phone calls, calling around. And I just asked one of the coaches, like, yo, is he there? He's like, yeah. I said, oh my God, perfect, because this kid is fantastic. This might be my wide receiver one. And he ended up being my wide receiver one. I mean, he has a PFA grade for me. I can imagine, you know, this year, if he does what I expect him to do, if A&M could just get him the ball, put him in the backfield, do whatever you need to do. I know it's cliche to say everybody want to treat every shorter, compact built wide receiver like, oh, just treat him like Deebo Samuel. Everybody said the same thing. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds, you know, but I just think of like a guy like Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. That he was like the first player I ever scouted for the Shrine Bowl. First player, Malachi Corley. And I just saw a pathway for him. So when I saw Malachi get drafted by the Jets, I'm just like, man, like that run after the catch, that high yak ability, slot receiver, not a refined route runner per se, but man, he could get open. He finds a way to get open. He can make contested catches, but man, if you miss that tackle, he is gone. Done. So I just think, you know, for Hewitt, it's like, just get him the ball on time, and let him do his thing. I was very impressed, and that's why when I shot you that text, I'm like, yo, man, I
forgot to.
He's a guy. He is a guy.
Yeah, only offensive playmaker on the list. Spoiler alert, guys. When you go to 5 through 1, there's no more offensive playmakers. So as a defensive guy, 2 defensive guys, I don't think we have a problem with it, but don't get your hopes up. If you like a wide receiver or a running back on your team, done for. Matter of fact, another spoiler, nah, we ain't gonna do that. Let's move on to Alabama and A&M offensive linemen, though, right? And you look at the list again. I like flashing this up here because we worked on this. Y'all see the Locked On HBCU. Y'all see the Draft HBCU. You have Carson Vinson out of Alabama A&M. He's 6'6", 6'7".
6'7", legit 6'7".
Right, and you know we have this conversation about height. That's not too much shorter than Aneem Donkwood, but he's 305, which means he's a lot lighter than Aneem. When you're comparing weight, because I think the height makes you immediately look at both of them. When you're comparing weight, how does that weight difference impact the differences in their game?
Scheme. So with Aneem, you can run more gap scheme, you know, because he's more forward charging. He's bigger. He's heavier. He'll lay on you. You know, he'll get in the way. He's a shielder. Think about Aneem. He's like I like to say, he's like a waller, not a mauler. Like some guys are maulers, like a Nick Tasty or Taste. I can't. I know I probably pronounced the name wrong, but that guard from matter of fact, we'll go another tackle. Tariq Stewart from A&T. He was not a waller. He's a mauler. Beat the mess out of you every time he puts his hands on you. He wants to get a pancake every time. So Aneem was more. He's more skilled. Aneem was more skilled, and he was able to get in the way. Now he'll put you to the ground every now and again, but always the knock on Aneem was like finish it. Carson is similar to Aneem, but with Carson, he could run that zone scheme. So all we really need you to do is get in the way.
I see what you're saying.
He could reach a loose 5 technique. He could reach a wide 9. He can reach that 3 tech to the inside. So his athleticism is why it's like, okay, you got 6'7", 305. A team to say, all right, we'll put 10 pounds on him. Yes. I think he got down to under 300 during the spring, but I think he'll come into the season around 305, 300. So be it. Okay. A little underweight per se. You would like to see more, I guess the word robustness in him, but he has a really
look at you being a scout.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Robustness. The word robustness. I didn't want to say girth, but yeah, it's not really my favorite word. It don't sound right. But you have more. He has a strong, like his lower half is well developed.
Right, I get you, man. I get you. I'm with you.
He has like a body that you can put healthy weight on, and it won't diminish or hurt.
Yes, he has the frame for more weight.
So, like, my only thing I would say is a knock on Carson. I would like to see more movement on one-on-one blocking. But that's that's a strength thing. That's a play strength thing.
And when you're a wall, that kind of probably leans into why you consider him a waller more than a mauler.
Yeah, he's a waller, but he's technical sound. So, like, once he sets himself, it's rare that you're gonna get driven back. Now he has some occasions where he goes against power rushes, and then they just got him. They just strong. Not really a pass rush move being thrown. They just said, hey, I'm just gonna run into his chest and just try and collapse the pocket. Now he may struggle with that at times with some lower body anchor things, but his technique is fine. So if the issue is strength, that could be worked on. If your issue is technique, and your technique is just like horrendous, that's harder to work on in your strength. You could get, I feel like an NFL program, NFL strength and conditioning program can get you stronger. But some guys, technique is just not, it doesn't come to guys.
Yeah.
So with Carson, I mean, he's at 10 right now, but I mean, he could easily be up there like top 5 by the end of the season. But that's just how I'm high on him, because he has a high upside. His upside is very high. Long arms, he has length.
Yeah.
Like, even if you do beat him, quote unquote, he's able to sink it to his hips and be able to wash you out. Now, that's up to the quarterback to step up.
And I think Hewitt and Vinson will be impacted by the quarterback play.
Oh, man,
we have to look at that, and we'll see. Yeah, I know we talked about the returning guys, the rollover at Alabama A&M, but it sounds like there's a new guy in the mix for the Bulldogs at quarterback, a transfer. So we'll see. Not in the mix as in starting, but in the mix to start. So, and it sounded like he was in the lead. I'll probably do a segment on that one day, but I got to go back and listen to what Maynard said specifically and make sure I'm not listening with hope and listening with accuracy. But as he pushed forward, there's a lot of hope for Alabama State. And we have their lead corner coming in at number 6. And this is the guy that was right on the edge between 6 and 5. And we'll look at that as we continue with Locked On HBCU. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Still got Gerald here with me, and we're ready to break down our number 6 player. Ain't really no drum roll because we already looked at the list and listed them off. But you got James Burgess coming in out of Alabama State. And I'm looking at him as a player who is replacing Mikey Victor. So when you're looking at both of those players, how do you compare them to one another?
So Burgess is way more physical. He is a physical press man, strong frame corner. He's big. He's about 6'2", 6'3", pushing 200 pounds. I know Mikey was a little heavier, but where Mikey was a little was better in his off coverage. Burgess is just, when he's in press man, he's one of the best corners out there. Like, once he gets his hands on you early, he's able to redirect you, and he's able to play that game where he's messing up your timing with your quarterback. Only thing I say was his knock on him was his off coverage ability. Off coverage is just like some reactive athleticism issues and stuff like that. But one thing I know about Alabama State, and one thing I know about that corner coach, Coach James Williams, if there's something that needs to be fixed, he'll fix it. I mean, proof's in the pudding. Keenan Isaac's on the Bucks. Mikey Victor's in camp with the Patriots, and his goal is to get another guy in the NFL. Actually, he wants two more in the NFL before this year. So he has every ability to do that. So I trust that will get done. And I think with Burgess, he's also effective in the deep zones, and he's a very proficient tackler as well. So I would say he needs to be, in a system that is like, hey, we have good safeties. We want you to press. We want you to press at the line of scrimmage. Don't worry about getting beat deep, and just be physical at the point of attack. Redirect guys, reroute guys. And, another thing, I mean, I'm not big on stats, but I was watching film. Burgess left some meat on the bone, man. He had about 3 picks. He could have had 3 more picks last year. And, I mean, it would have just changed the conversation about him.
Yeah.
Like me, yeah. I'm not big on stats, personally. But, with DBs, sometimes production does, go a long way. But then you have that Sante Samuel, Darrell Reeves conversation that I hate having. But, because at the end of the day, no one's throwing at you, then, okay. So what?
And we saw. I almost conflated my two jobs. I was about to talk about Kool-Aid McKinstry, because we just picked him up with the Saints. So I was about to say, yeah, we saw that with Kool-Aid McKinstry. Then I thought about it. Now he went to Alabama, not Alabama State or A&M. Let's bring it back into these HBCUs. But you know what? There's a mindset difference too, because you're now stepping in as the undisputed lead corner on an elite, what we think would be an elite defense. I think we have a lot of faith in Eddie Robinson.
It's going to be it. I mean, this should be the best defense that Eddie Robinson had, actually.
You looked off in the distance like you want to think about it.
No, it's the best defense he should have, hands down. This should be the best one.
Okay. Well, with Eddie Robinson having his best season or his best defense on his hands going into 2024, and you have James Burgess that's the lead corner undisputedly, what's the mindset difference? Because you don't have Mikey Victor on the other side.
Oh, but they got somebody else that came in, baby. And I have a transfer rule. Transfers don't get put on my list and stuff like that.
You know how I am about transfers.
Yeah, I'm not big on
I'm a little hesitant with them too.
Yeah, so all I'll say, if that did come into play, the guy they brought in, Caleb Alford, would be in this conversation. I have a rule that transfers, I don't put them on. But trust and believe, it'll be Caleb Alford and it'll be James Burgess. You have one guy that's 6'3", 200. You got the other one about 6'1", about 195. And we're going to spin. So, they're going to spin. So it's just like, hey, they just seem to replace big corners with more big corners. And then they have a safety, Amon Scarborough, that's going to be pretty good too. So they'll be set at DB. But Burgess, man, he's the leader of that group. He's been there for the longest out of the DB room. He's a guy. I have more. So I want people to understand with Mikey Victor, Mikey Victor wasn't in a lot of my lists. He wasn't in a lot of my conversation, but end of the day, he just went out there. He made it very hard. You're like, oh, okay, week 2, week 3, okay. This 6'3" corner, this is someone I need to really start talking about, really start promoting, because this guy is good. So that's the same thing with James. James is actually ahead of the game than Mikey was. I mean, last year, because I didn't have Mikey in my top 10 prospect list last year. But James, he's there. He's number 6, and he has upper middle. The only thing I'll say, I would like to see what the speed numbers look like. Those bigger corners. It's always that kind of like, okay, now everybody ain't gonna be Tyreek Woolen. Like, it's just Everybody gonna be Reek Woolen. Like that's a 6'4" corner that runs a 4.2 is very rare. But I think with Burgess, his instinct, his positioning, and his physicality is going to take him a long way when it comes. He may have to overcome some speed things. So I will say he'll probably be in the high 4.5, low 4.6 range. Some people don't like that. Some people don't care. I personally, I'm a film guy. If your film shows that you're not getting beat deep all the time, then cool. Now, that's why I say with Burgess, if he gets on you early, cool. If you play him off, there were some things on film I saw that just didn't make me feel comfortable watching an off coverage when it comes to just twitch and reaction stuff. But like I said, Coach James Williams said it will be fixed. So that's why I'm higher on him than a lot of other corners I have that I've scouted this year.
Are y'all enjoying the corner talk? I hope so, because I'm gonna tell you right now, as we get through 5 through 1, it's gonna be a lot more corner talk. I just want you to know. On tomorrow's episode, we'll be back at the same time. So make sure you set your clock, same alarm. If you got the iPhone, all you gotta do is hit that toggle and it'll go right back to 5:30. So set your alarm. G and I will be back tomorrow. We're about to record right now. I can't wait to bring this to you. 5 through 1 is a very interesting list, and we'll break it down on tomorrow. But in the meantime, in between time, take care, stay blessed. Peace.